more comfortable you get with right away shifting your attention from your emotional aspect and your feeling aspect into how it's reflected in the body, the more manageable it can become for you to be present to any of your emotional charges. So because when we shift the attention from emotion to physical sensation, even though sensation can be intense, we learn how to manage the activation of this sensation by pendulating, bringing ourselves into the resource. So the next aspect is resource. And resource, it's a place of safety that we can find within our body and also outside of our body. Like for example, in my session, Prema can be my external resource. So she represents the safety for me if I encounter some sort of intense activation which is too much for me. So through her touch, through her presence, through her voice, she can support me to feel safe and decrease the level of activation that I experience. To find your internal resource, we need to use our felt sense. We need to experience the physical sensation of ourselves, to scan our body and to find actual physical place which feels relaxed, feels connected, feels like at home. So now, before we go into a session, Prema will guide me to find my resource. Another important foundational aspect we use in this work is an aspect of resonance. We are all broadcasting stations. We constantly broadcast our state, our physical state and our emotional state. And this is proven, it's not some esoteric mumbo-jumbo, it's really actually been measured by scientific instruments that we are emitting electromagnetic impulses depending on our emotional state. And I'm sure many of you have been in a situation, if you are, for example, on a crowded bus and you're sitting to somebody who's anxious and agitated, after a while you start to feel, I know something's going on with me, I'm better move away from this guy because it doesn't make me feel relaxed sitting next to this person. So we are, as well as transmitters, we are receivers. So we're both. And in the session we use this ability that we all have as receivers to judge and experience what might be happening for our client, emotionally and physically. So if the client is in the session, they are transmitting these states. They are kind of a radio transmitter that is transmitting a certain frequency. And if you are sensitive enough, if you allow, you can tune yourself like a radio receiver. You tune your radio into this certain channel to receive that particular transmission. The radio receiver has all these different channels. On one channel you play rock and roll, another is a talk show, and the third one is jazz, and the third one is comedy. So in this way, we are actually tuning ourselves to receive what is being transmitted. And for this to be able to do, we need to be empty. That's why we use the meditation every morning. Meditation empties ourselves. It creates the state of silence. When you make yourself hollow, that you don't bring anything of yours into the session, you are allowing yourself to be receptive, to feel what is going on. So imagine, always imagine, keep coming back to this understanding that you are a hollow bamboo, like a bamboo flute, and I will play the flute during your sessions. And why I love to play bamboo flute, because it's resonant. It's thin and it resonates the breath, it transforms the breath into a sound. So imagine yourself to be this hollow bamboo that resonates everything, all the frequencies that come out from your client. And if you are able to do that, and that's an acquired skill, that you start by, oh, maybe I'm not feeling anything, to moving into, oh, I'm feeling something, into, wow, I'm feeling a lot, and this is reflected in my body. So based on that, you move to support. What's happening for me when I'm sitting next to someone, when I'm feeling what's going on for this person, when I'm being pulled to bring my touch to a certain area of their body, or I'm being pulled to say some things to them, to support their session, to go deeper, to break through the many layers of tension that we build to protect ourselves from pain. This is what trauma is. When trauma causes pain and we shut down or we interrupt the fight or flight release that's been expressed, that's been released into the body, we interrupt that from completing its course, and it turns into bodily tension. So we hold this tension in our physical bodies for years and years, and it becomes chronic, and it stops the free flow of your energy. From Chinese medicine, we know that our energy is traveling through certain channels in our body, and if the energy channels is blocked by tension, it interrupts the flow, the free flow of energy. And the moment we begin to work with our bodies, the moment we begin to complete the fight or flight that's been interrupted and held in our body as tension, we begin to dissolve these blocks and the energy begins to move. So another thing that can happen in the trauma, because of the overwhelm, we shut down to feeling. And so the next step from fight or flight, you go into fight or flight, it doesn't work, you go into dissociation and checking out. So you can be either hyper-aroused, the fight or flight is stuck in the body, you're always in the doing mode, you need to get somewhere, complete something, and then you feel exhausted, and then you go into forced recuperation, you shut down and feel numb. So we are completing the fight or flight that's been interrupted, and on the other hand, we are supporting the dissociation and numbness to dissolve, so we can again become sensitive enough to feel. And this is a normal activation and discharge in life that, if it takes its course, there is no trauma, there is no harmful effects. But in many of us, this cycle gets interrupted somewhere. So this is why we're here, this is why we are doing the work that we're doing, is to support this cycle to complete, to come out of the hyper-aroused mode or dissociated mode. And in this session, what we'll do, I'll recap the session. Prema will support me to find my resource. Then I will go into the breathing. We'll use the spinal undulation, the spinal unwinding. And this is pretty much supports to start to release the deep core tension that surrounds our spine. And mainly this tension is related to our past traumatic event while we were growing up, developmental trauma. From the time of conception, so we start to pick up all of the feelings, sensations that mother had felt, whether she was safe or unsafe, and going through the birth trauma into the first 7 to 10 years of life. So 7 to 10, right? They say
it can vary.
It can vary. Okay. Then the first part of the session will be sitting, then I will lie down, I will come into a fetal position, and coming out of the fetal position, we're again going into the unwinding process, but this time we lead with the head. Same way, like baby is about to be born, baby is looking for a birth canal. So baby is leading with the head, and this starts to move the entire spine. So Prema will support me with that by just slightly providing very slight resistance onto my head, like when at the time of your birth, You go into the birth canal, there's resistance everywhere. So you need to make your way through. You need to actively work to be born. And that's why the C-section can be traumatic, because this process is denied. The baby does not go through this very important process of fighting for life. Yeah. So, for those of you who you know that you were born in the C-section, this can actually be super healing to allow your body to go through this experience of kind of reliving your birth, but in a proper way.
Forceps babies, and also those whose mothers were heavily medicated, and so there might have been too much Pitocin, you might have gone through too fast. Any kind of disruptive birth processes can feel really good.
So I will start to unwind from the fetal position. Prema will support with a little bit of resistance into my head, so it's not much, it's just a little bit to act, very slight muscular activation. And then I will bring that movement into the entire spine and come out into the counter position. So we go from the position where the front is contracted, this could be protective fetal position, but there's also fear position. So when you're in fear and you want to protect all your vital organs, you go into this position. When we come out from this position, we go into an opposite position, which is also, it's called startle position. All of a sudden, somebody scares you, there's a natural body's response to go, so you breathe in, all of the back of the body contracts, the back of the neck, all along the spine, all along the lower back, it contracts, and the breath gets stuck. Eyes are wide open. This is how the fear is stuck in the body. And out of that position, we begin to unwind into the opening. And you can repeat this a couple of times, going from the fetal into the startle, and then unwinding out of each, and then coming back again to fetal, and then repeating. It depends how your session unfolds on its own. It could be done once or twice or 3 times. Okay, anything you'd like to add to this?
No, this may sound like a lot of information right now. Don't worry about it.
This may sound like a lot of information right now. Don't worry. In the demo, you'll see it all, and I'll also be talking through it and pointing things out. So if it feels like a lot, don't worry.
Yeah, and we'll be coming back to it on a daily basis and adding more and more. So for this session, as supporters, your focus is to really try to find that broadcasting station that your client is broadcasting. And so tune your radio. You may try a few different frequencies until you say, oh, this is it. I hear the music they're playing. So finding that, and based on that, you trust being in resonance with your client. It's actually about presence. And as much as possible being present in this session by just holding space. What it means to hold space. Holding space means that you don't have an agenda. You don't have an idea. I want to see this happen in this person's session. I want to direct the session to go this way. You simply holding space to allow for anything that wants to manifest, take place in its own time. You're just there for that. And this itself is very resourceful for the client who's in the session, because they feel they're allowed. Anything that wants to take place is allowed to happen. And it's not very often we find ourselves in a situation where we feel, wow, I'm allowed to express and to be in anything that's happening without monitoring my expression, to be loved, to be accepted. This is what we learn to do when we're children. We learn to monitor our expression to fit in. This is how we build our personality, this protective shield that we all wear. And in this session, we start to shed our layers of the personality, which is stuck in our physical body as forms of tension that we all carry.
And also, I would say as a supporter, the other thing that can get in the way is thinking that you somehow need to understand what's going on for the other person. Don't worry about that. Just focus on presence. You will try to sometimes create a story or an understanding about what you're seeing, and you never can really know what's happening for the other person. So just keep coming back to being present, being open, being curious.
You can talk about touch. Can I get my water, please?
So in BBTRS, touch is a really beautiful, important part of this work. For today, as we go through the week, you'll be learning different body work and touch techniques to support the different parts of the body. Today, because we're working with this general session, the only touch that we'll be working with is energetic touch off the body, and then towards the end of your session, very light touch. Tomorrow we'll get more into the body work. So you'll see me today demonstrate energetic off the body connection, and then very light touch may look a little bit like this, or just like this. There won't be any body work or any deep work done today. That will start more tomorrow. How's that? So, to start with, once you've worked with somebody a few times, they will know, you'll teach them what a resource is, and you'll just be able to ask where's a place of resource. But for today, one of the ways that I like to ask or open that question with clients is to say, if you take a moment and check in with your body, and do a scan, what's a place in your body that feels more comfortable to you? It feels more like how you like to feel? Maybe perhaps feels more open or safe. Your hands. Okay. What do you notice? I see you're doing this with your hands.
I feel a very pleasant charge in my hands, warmth and connection. Pleasant charge, strength. Strength that I feel that I can grab, pull towards me, or I can push away for safety. So, the hands, if I scan the entire body, the hands right away attracted my attention before I even move further than this part. So, the hands, I would say, would be my resource.
And you notice that Giten used the felt sense to contact with that. He said they're warm, they're charged, that's sensation language. And then he said, I feel strength, I feel safety, I can do things with them, I can push away, I can pull in. That's all the felt sense right there, to give you an example of it.
One thing that I would like to say is that when somebody starts to speak in concepts, I feel
spacious, that's more of a sensation, like I feel happy.
Yeah, I feel happy. Like, okay, how does this happiness translate to your physical sensation? So don't let the person take you away from connection to the body. Yeah, we're not so much focused on the emotional or we're more focused on sensational aspect of what we're feeling.
But as like Giten did, he started with the sensation, charge, warmth, and then he went into more. He developed it more. What he's noticing, what he's feeling there. Okay. So your hands are a place of resource. Okay, great. Anything else that you're noticing in your body that you'd like me to know right now?
Yeah, it feels like my belly feels a bit contracted. Yeah, maybe the change of the environments, coming from a different country to Mexico yesterday, it takes some days to acclimate to the food different weather, because I came from very, very tropical and very superhuman place into more dry place. So it feels like my body's still acclimating to that. I'm liking the food. It feels like my body's still catching up to liking it.
Yeah, yeah. And I know it's just the way you're holding yourself, it's almost like you're protecting it a little bit.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels more kind of a weakness here. A weakness and more of the contraction, especially around the stomach area. Yeah. The rest of the body feels good.
And in this session, we won't be doing any deep work, but there'll be energetic touch and light touch. Is there any place in your body that you want to be sure I don't touch outside of genitals, obviously? Okay.
It's actually just the important question to ask in a session. If a person doesn't feel like they want to be touched at a certain area, it's good that you set these boundaries.
Okay, let's begin. I'll give you more space here.
I start with a deep, full, connected breathing through the mouth, and Prema will monitor the intensity of charge that begins to generate in the body with this type of breath.
At the beginning of sessions, I like to breathe as my person for the first couple of minutes. So I'm tuning into my body, I'm getting myself grounded, I'm feeling what's happening inside of me, and I like to do that before I start to tune into the person across from me. It helps me know what's me and what's them. I'm just feeling here, I'm listening to the sound of his breath. I'm noticing his breath it sounds very open. As I'm hearing him, there isn't any sounds of constriction or tightness. I'm noticing in his body that the breath is coming from his belly. His belly is moving as he breathes. And his spine is starting to open up more. You notice there's first the neck and the upper back, and now the belly's getting involved more. His hips, he's moving into his hips a little bit here. So I'm just watching and observing right now. I'm tuning in. And my body automatically moves with the person. You don't have to be doing this. It's just what happens for me. Noticing his jaw, he's starting to work his jaw a bit more. And I'm just starting to bring in some off the body supportive touch here. Similar to the exercise we did earlier this morning, I'm just kind of scanning his body, seeing what I'm noticing. I'm also feeling for where. Just a sense of offering some support to his process of opening up. just a little bit of light contact at times. But I'm not in there doing things. I'm giving him, creating just a space here for him to explore. You can see on his face is getting redder. There's more redness coming up here in his chest and his throat. So there's more charge starting to build in his system. And his breath is obviously increasing. More movement is coming in. His belly is starting to open up more. Yeah, I see a little bit of that vibration, shaking movements of the belly. And that was the area that wasn't feeling so great before we started.
So after a movement like that, of the unwinding, I come into consciously reaching out and stretching. So I'm consciously bringing, opening into the entire side of my body. So I'm stretching the skin and the fascia under the skin, all the connective tissue. So I'm reaching and engaging my fascia.
I'm just offering very light resistance. I'm not pulling. I'm just getting a little bit of support.
And as the tension that's held there beginning to release, I'm starting to experience this tremoring that wants to release out when the tension begins to release.
So there was this wave of activation earlier, then he settled, then he started stretching, and now there's a bigger wave coming in. And this is really opening his belly now, opening his front body, stretches his belly, diaphragm, heart. Now we're coming into a third wave of activation. It's bigger than the other two. Now it starts to settle. And we want to support the settling after somebody's been in a wave of activation for a while.
So we're going into pendulation, coming from activation into slowing down and feeling and allowing the movement to express. Slowing the breath, bringing your attention back into your felt sense, into the body. Coming into the natural cycle of activation, expansion, then slowing down, feeling contraction, sensation.
At some point then, coming into the fetal position that Giten talked about and breathing in this place, in this more fetal place. Just getting some touch support on his back, no pressure. And it's very tempting as a supporter right now to think you are supposed to be doing something. No, you don't overdo it. You're here, you're providing a really safe, present container. He's exploring his hands, exploring his resource, feeling that energy. I'm just going to bring a little bit of light touch to the top of his head, just so he feels that I'm here, giving a little bit of resistance, a little bit of space to explore. I'm not trying to prevent anything. My hand is soft. It melts to his head. I'm just here, maybe a little bit of contact.
This feels really good.
It does feel really good. There's something so satisfying about this. And I like to provide down the neck, so it's like almost like he's moving through the birth canal here. A little bit here on the shoulders if you want. My hands down his back, supporting the energy to move all the way down his legs. And then wait if you want. Provide a little bit of support to the feet. Don't get your body in there, but you can do a little bit with your leg and your hand. This helps also the energy move all the way down his body. I'm not pressing here, I'm just providing a little bit of resistance. If he wants it. It's his choice whether he uses it or not. Keep one hand here just to have contact. And I should bring the other hand above the area where there was tension before. So we can some energetic connection here. And obviously his legs are a lot stronger than my arm. I'm just providing a little bit of contact here and he is using it as he wants. See now how much how much more open the front part of his body is. Move, I just said there's like a sense of pleasure as he moves his legs. And laughter comes. Provide just a little bit of support for the head and neck. I'm not moving his head and neck, I'm moving with him. scanning his energy right now, just like you did this morning. And then at the end of the session, it can be quite nice just to step back a little bit and just holding space, letting them really feel themselves and their body, what's open, where's the breath moving more. And they're in their space, and I'm here holding a safe container. I'm not looking around what are other people doing. I'm here, present, holding space. You just glanced over at me. That's the reason. It's almost like a little child space somebody can be in. A child wants to know that the person is in close proximity, but they have their space. It's like, just looks over. She's here, yeah, she's here. Did you want the headset?
I'm still a little high from the session. But just to recap, in the session you may go through an entire spectrum of emotional responses. The key is not to get stuck in any of them. A lot of the times we encounter something and think, oh, this feels so good, stay in it, and then the emotion takes over and you're no longer connected to physicality. All this emotion is reflected in your physical body. So with biodynamic breath work, we want to support you to move through the emotions by encountering them, staying with low to medium level of activation, not too much. Because if you go too much, then it takes over, you lose yourself in it. So you stay in that low to medium level activation, you shift your attention on how it's expressed into the body, and before you know, you move into a level deeper. What's under that emotion? There may be something else. For example, if you're encountering anger, rage, if you really tune into it, underneath is fear. And if you tune into the fear, underneath it is maybe joy. Yeah? So we move through in the session you can encounter all of that. And it's okay, for those of you who are very new to this work, that it's okay if you encounter and stay with one for the entire duration of the session. But sooner or later, if you stay with exploring this work, you get to realize that there are many layers, and it's reflected in how we carry it in our physical body. So I was going through encountering sadness and encountering laughter that came right after it, and just connected right into it. And the key is not to be stuck. And then you notice that at times there were waves of tremoring that came, and that comes as we call it the neurogenic tremors. So your nervous system begins to release the tension that's stuck in the body. And a lot of the time, this tension that's stuck in your nervous system is the cause of autoimmune diseases. Yeah? So when this tension begins to travel through you, when this tremor begins to travel through you, this is a signal that your nervous system is beginning to release the charge that's been stuck in it. So the best thing is to surrender and allow yourself to feel, and it may turn into feeling almost orgasmic, or even more so than the actual sexual orgasm, because it's felt throughout your entire body. So allow yourself to go there, and it will move through you in waves. Don't impose it onto yourself. It will come. If it doesn't come in your first sessions, that's also okay, because the way that we work with the body, we go through releasing the layers and layers of tension and the control pattern that you put in place, try to control anything that happens, any kind of emotional response or body response we want to control. And years of doing that, put that control pattern, this shield that we carry all over our physical body. The time that when we begin to relax this tension, we encounter deeper and deeper layers which start to release in the form of tremoring. You saw it happening. The moment I allow myself, the wave comes, moves, then slows down. Sometime later another wave comes, and it feels very good. So explore this session.
Yeah, we didn't really talk too much about, maybe I talk about titration for a minute, because we didn't really talk about it before.
Like in this session it happened naturally.
Yeah. So, two important principles are really important principles that your heroes come back to over and over and over are titration and pendulation. Titration is the principle of working just small bits at a time. So not going from 0 to 60 with your client. You saw this with Giten, how we just worked a little bit, and then there was a period of almost like a little bit of resting, and then there was a little bit more activation, and then you saw a period of like settling. So titration means we work in small bits at a time. We don't get our people overcharged. Small bits. Pendulation, people often get the two confused, so I'll explain the difference here. Pendulation is what our nervous system does automatically if it's able to regulate. So pendulation is a natural organic process that happens inside of us. And you saw that also in this session. When Giten moved from charge to discharge, he built up, the breath increased more, his face got red, there was more color, you saw a little bit of tension come into his face at times. That was charging. When that released, There might have been a little bit of tears or laughter or the neurogenic tremor he talked about. There was a discharge. That's pendulation, the cycle of going into charge and discharge. That's our body's natural process when our nervous system is actually able to do it. Trauma interrupts our body's natural ability to pendulate. So when you're working with people who have a lot of trauma, dysregulation in the nervous system, they're more in a chronic freeze state, which we can talk more about in the coming days. Their nervous system is not able to pendulate. It goes in one direction and keeps going and going and going and going. They charge, they charge, they charge, they charge, until eventually they shut down or something. So, titration is one of the ways that we support the body to do its organic work of pendulation. We don't pendulate people. We can't. Pendulation is a natural organic process that the nervous system will do when there's enough safety, when it's regulated enough, and when we titrate well with somebody. That helps support pendulation to occur.
That is actually how the natural progression, that's how
The natural progression of the session happens. So we go into the charge, you have a chart in your manuals, you go into the charge. The activation is actually already starts to happen when you sit across from each other and you support people to go into sensing their body. That's already the beginning of activation. Then we bring
That's
in
the first
breath.
titration.
Titration, sorry.
Yeah.
That's the first titration. Then we go up, we're charging, we're increasing the charge. Then some sort of release happens, and then we're slowing down. Yeah? And then
That's a pendulation.
so in this particular session, in this demo, it happened at least
3 or 4
3 or
times.
4 times. So it went charge, discharge, something slowed down, then again the breath continued again, activation. It took quicker to activate because the body is already charged with breath, and you come to a little higher peak and a lower valley.
Mm-hmm. And the reason that is able to happen here is I am not encouraging him to keep breathing, keep breathing, keep breathing, keep breathing. No, there's a natural cycle that his body follows. That's the organic pendulation. Unlike other types of breath work which you may have experienced where you're encouraged to just that just keeps charge and charge and charge and charge and charge, and then eventually you have one big discharge. We're working here in a more trauma-safe and trauma-informed way of doing little bits of activation, giving space for rest. Little bits more of activation, giving space for rest. We're just working with small bits at a time, and it may seem counterintuitive, but you'll get a lot better effect if you work small bits at a time. We have this idea that no pain, no gain. Small bits at a time will do a lot more healing work than trying to do some big thing. I don't know what the word is, but I think you get a sense of what we're talking about here. Yeah, or big charge, big, kicking and screaming and yelling and blah. Yeah.
Old school way of working, the cathartic release, it's not valid these days anymore.
Is it? It's Sage who needs something. Sage, you're at the door.
Sandy just
Sandy just went out.
Denise will come.
Okay.
Yes, Kira.
I have a question. So, you talk about doing this, and he can do it gracefully and beautifully and knows his body. But there's a lot of people who would probably be terrified of that. Like terrified of going into that, feeling that, expressing that. They're not given permission to do that. So here we are, and we're telling people to, go into this. How would you gently guide somebody who might not even know how to move to get them to that next space? Because, we have an understanding of our body, but many people don't.
That's the training this week.
That's
That's what we're gonna learn.
This is what we learn to do, is to support people who have no idea how to.
And how to do it where they don't feel shame, that
Exactly.
they're not doing it right, so they clamp. And we honor where they're at.
Yeah, totally.
And
That's
then
everything
bring a
is
certain
Absolutely.
language out that can get them even to just the next corner.
Yeah,
Because yeah.
yeah,
We
that's,
are, we're making very small steps,
Mhm.
and they're valid to each particular individual. And we never push somebody to the place where they're not ready to go. So we always work, this work is very individual, and what works for one may be a few steps back for someone else who's not ready or wants to, but they have no ability to sense their body to the degree that others do. So that's how we teach you to work with people.
that's my practice. Yeah, I live in Vancouver, I live in an urban environment. My clients are not going to Mexico for a week. They're not going to Goa, they're not going to Bali. No, so that's this work you'll learn through the course of this week how to do that, and then putting it into practice, and there's a learning curve
They
with it.
desperately need it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they're coming to you and they're.
So you'll learn it, but that's what the whole course of the 4 levels of training is about. We go more and more and more into that every time.
So you have done this work a lot. So watching your demonstration, there's always something to titrate out of the nervous system. Like you've done this work a lot, so there's always charge to let go because of life.
Yeah, as long as you're alive, there will always be charge.
Charge is not bad. If you want to get up and clean your house, you need some charge. If you want to go dancing, if you want to do anything except for lay in bed and read a book, you pretty much need some sympathetic activation. We think charge is bad, but it's not. It's just a part of life. What we want is to be able to move into charge and back out and be able to handle ever greater increases of positive charge energy in our bodies.
And by doing this work, we're able to be exercised, to be with whatever charge is. Maybe it's the charge of sadness, maybe it's the charge of anger, but to treat it as a passing experience. So you feel it, you embody it, and it's gone. You don't get stuck in it. And it's normal. We are human beings. You will feel anger, you will feel frustration, you will feel anxiety at some periods of life, and it's okay. The problem begins to arise that when you're stuck in it, and it runs your life rather than being a passing experience. And charge is healthy. We need to go through this is an actual pendulation of life. We need to go through charge to discharge, to activation and rest.
Sorry, question. How often can you safely practice this? Because I've heard different opinions about breath work, especially when it comes to breathing through the nose versus through the mouth. So it would be good to hear your views on that.
This is a special technique. We don't use it on a daily basis. Here within the workshop, we use it on a daily basis, and that's okay. But this is not something you use in everyday life. It's perfectly safe to practice at least 3 times a week, to give yourself sessions, to receive sessions. We're doing this over the course of 1 week. You will see how you feel after. Your body will feel so open, so connected. And yeah, I hear different opinions, and everybody's got some opinion to say, to share. So I notice what I observe, and from what I observe, it works beautifully. Okay, let's take a break now.